How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Crypt, the Papercutz run, number 6, Toomb. Yeah, those puns the Crypt Keeper is famous for do continue into this run of the series. So anyway, a bit about how I came about to finding this. I have quite recently been watching the HBO series Tales from the Crypt, and it's a very good show. I have some reviews up for it, and I really liked it, and that made me want to go back and read some of the comics. Now, unfortunately, online they're quite expensive, and I tried to go to physical stores, and even though the Dark Horse reprints weren't from too terribly long ago, I could not find any Tales from the Crypt. I did find the original print of Crime Patrol, the EC Library one, and I did find Dark Horse Two-Fisted Tales, but the only original run of Tales from the Crypt I found was this comic reprint from when the show was first out. So I looked everywhere, and from the original run I only found this one issue. But from later runs, I think there were two. The first of the second runs, so the second run, was the series from Papercutz, and not really having too many options, I went ahead and picked it up. For some reason, I've been looking at half-price books, and they only have volumes or numbers 6 and 9, so I couldn't even find too much of this. I really wish, Tales from the Crypt being this classic series, I really wish that I could just walk into any store and buy it, but unfortunately, if I want to get it, it looks like it has to be through the internet, and Volume 1 is quite expensive on Amazon at the moment. So, for what we can do, let's take a look at Tales from the Crypt, the Papercutz run, number 6. This does feature the ghoul lunatics, as they call them, the Crypt Keeper, the Old Witch, and the Vault Keeper. And for those of you who've only seen the show and wonder why the Crypt Keeper doesn't look like a skeleton, that is his original comic appearance, and they're basing this on the old comics. HBO redesigned him, and I do love the redesign, but, you know, this is based on the EC comics, and if you open it up, you do get this little sort of alternate cover of sorts, featuring the voodoo guy from the first story, and then the inner cover, and we're going to look at the credits, so you can see who did what story. That's really tiny writing, I don't know if you can focus on that. But yeah, Chicken Man, Brain Food, Little Darlin', Murder Maid, and the Ghoul Lunatics sequence. So, we have 4 stories in this one. The first one, Chicken Man. Now, I'm not going to show you too much of the story because I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm only going to show you a couple pages from each, and I'm going to try to avoid any spoiler pages. But this guy, the Chicken Man, and he's sort of bought all the local chicken businesses, which this voodoo doctor needs chickens for his business. And of course, finding out the voodoo doctor has a ton of money, he begins to think of another scheme to kind of screw him over more. And one thing that you'll notice quite off the bat is this art style here is very loose and sketchy, and some people aren't gonna like this style. I think there'll be a few people that like it, but some people are gonna be, why is that artwork this way? I don't understand. And so, if you're not in for the loose and sketchy art style, you may not really appreciate this story here, but that's the first one. It's all right. The second one is called Brain Food, And oh yeah, these the Ghoul Lunatic sequence, they're literally just one page, so don't expect too terribly much time with them. Yeah, that's so the idea is they're literally, because the volume's called Toomb, they're literally watching a website, Toomb, and they're like showing videos to each other, and the videos are the stories. But anyway, so you get this doctor in this one, and you notice this one, it's got a more crisp and clean art style. It's effective, nothing too particularly striking, but you know, if you're more the fan of the crisp, clean, effective art style, then this will be more for you. But in this one, you get this doctor, and he has a patient that believes there's a strange monster roaming the halls that is sucking out people's brains. And the doctor doesn't believe him, but when people's brains do start to go missing, he thinks it's this guy's fault, and he starts to really antagonize him, because of course he doesn't believe him. And he starts to really be super mean to this guy. But is the brain-eating monster real? Well, that's a question for most of the story. He is featured on the back, though, so, you know, he might be real. I don't know, this maybe pick a different image for the back cover. But anyway, moving on to that one was a little better than the first. A little more developed, you know, the psychology of, you know, interrogating the patient or whatnot. Although I will say it does end with a random insult towards this guy, and I'm like, wait, I thought he was you know, we were supposed to feel sympathetic, and then they kind of make a jab at him at the end. I'm like, that's weird. But anyway, the last story there called Little Darlin', and this one, it's again in a sketchier art style. It's a different artist, and this is a little tighter, a little more cleaned up. I like this version of this style. But a old woman gets a baby left on her porch, and the first thing it does is a dog comes up to it, and the dog runs away scared. So, you know, something's up with this baby, and she's like, you know, I love it, but I'm too old. I don't know if I can really care for it. So, eventually, though, it's not really wanting to eat regular food, and it might want something a little different. This story I really did like, but unfortunately, by the time I was really getting into it and wanting more, it ended really kind of suddenly and abruptly. I mean, a logical point to end, I guess, but I was really, really into this story, and I was sad to, you know, see it go so quick, and it kind of made me wish there were only 3 stories in this so that I could get a few more pages with this one. So this was pretty fun. The last story here in this one, Murder Maid, and you see the kind of crisp, you know, very minimal art style for this one. It's kind of, you know, cartoony, but a scientist, he's getting divorced, and he's kind of created this robot maid for him. And of course, this is one where you can kind of figure where this is going really quick. Overall, it was fun. Kind of cartoony, and for some reason in this story, a lot of the violence takes place off panel. I think it's more for the gag than it is for censorship. But a fun, weird, cartoony story, and I liked it enough, but this is totally one that you know where it's going from the beginning. Overall, this volume, I was expecting a lot less from it, but it was still fine. You know, I sat back, read it, had a good time, but, you know, nowhere near as probably good as the original run, but of course, like I said, I can't find the original run. But overall, not too bad. Not the greatest thing ever. Not too bad, surprisingly. One thing, though, I brought up censorship really briefly. That is kind of a confusing thing with this volume. You know, the original Tales from the Crypt run was made for kind of older kids, and the HBO show definitely made for adults. This, I think, is aimed at younger kids. Papercutz, that's kind of their demographic. But in turn, you know, you get like the brain-sucking monster. Whenever someone was found with their brain missing, like the most gore you get was like a pink mark across their forehead, and it's like, how do they physically get the brain out without that? And then, you know, there's like, you know, a few other references that are just a little more than kid friendly, but then it tries to be really kid friendly. So yeah, I don't know, it just goes a little beyond, and I kind of wish this was made more for adults. But overall, fine volume. Glad to pick it up, but yeah, don't expect the world from it. Anyway, I do want to review more comics on this channel. I'll probably try to do more comics, more books, and more board games, but I do primarily horror movies on this channel, and I do want to, of course, find more Tales from the Crypt. Now, I do have a playlist for Tales from the Crypt, which I'll put down there, again, primarily the TV show. And for everyone who's watched this far, thank you for watching. I do about 95% horror on this channel. And to everyone who's liked and subscribed, you really do help out the channel. I want to say a big thank you to you. Anyway, I'll be back again very soon. Have a great day.